Okay, so that's a tune called What's the Matter Blues from a duo consisting of Frank Stokes and Dan Sain, who often recorded under the name the Beale Street Sheiks. And they had one of the best worked out duet sounds in all the country blues. And were sold a lot of records. I mean, Frank Stokes was an amazing singer, and they were both great guitar players. Now, for this song, I'm capoed up to the 5th fret in standard tuning, playing out of D position in standard tuning, which, because I'm capoed to the 5th fret, makes me sound in G. So here's the pitch of my open strings there, capoed to the 5th fret in standard tuning. And Frank is playing out of G position in standard tuning without a capo. And this was characteristic of the way that Frank Stokes and Dan Sain played together, that Frank Stokes would play capoed up a ways, and Dan Sain would be playing lower on the neck, playing out of a different playing position. And because they're playing out of different positions and Frank Stokes is playing capoed up, it's sort of like their registers didn't clash. You can hear both of them with great clarity, even on these old records. So there's the tuning setup for the song. Now, Frank Stokes on this song, as I said, is playing in D. It's a pretty simple in the left hand. I'll show the left hand at one point, or actually 2 points, in the solos. He goes up the neck a ways to the 10th fret relative to the capo placement. But I'll just start off and play what he plays in this opening solo. And you'll see he's doing a lot of characteristic moves in D, hammers on the first string. Now he goes to this little G partial. And what you can do is continue to hold that 3rd fret of the 2nd string, but take your index finger across to the 2nd fret of the 5th string and alternate your bass from there. And then I believe Frank Stokes is playing thumb and index finger, doing a lot of big brush strokes with his thumb on the upbeats, and brush strokes with his index finger coming back toward his thumb in the treble. And, you know, he's just like a drum. I mean, he's doing a lot of pinches, very straight up and down, right on the beat. Now, on the and of beat 3, in that last measure of that form, he's going to slide up here. So you can see. Now he gets to the solo, and in the solo, he just kind of drops out the treble altogether behind, I'm sorry, excuse me, not the solo, but the sung verses. He drops out the treble behind his singing and just pounds on the bass and plays time, which is interesting because normally you'd think the supposed lead guitarist is playing melodically, and really he's leaving that available for Dan Sain. So it's like this. That's pretty much what he does behind his singing. Now, in the solo that follows the 2 verses that I sang, he does an interesting thing. It's kind of a modified stop time where he does a pinch and a little hammer on beat 1, rests for 2 beats, and does a brush on beat 4. So it's like this. He does this for 3 measures, and on the 4th measure he hits 3 and 4 with his thumb. So it's like this. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Open first string, A to 7. And then the second half of that solo is pretty much a reprise of what he did in the second solo prior to the singing. Going up here. And so that's pretty much Frank Stokes' part on What's the Matter Blues. And, you know, over the course of the song, he alters it in various kinds of subtle ways. You may be able to pick up as you listen to the original recording that's included on your lesson. But in the main, that's what's going on. And you can see it's probably one of the less complex tunes in the left hand, certainly, that we've handled in this lesson. And so we'll go now to a split screen version of this. And what we'll do for the split screen version is the opening solo, down low, up high, 1 verse, and the concluding solo, down low, up high as well. So we'll go do that split screen version of this guitar part now.
Okay, so now we'll talk a little bit about Dan Sain's part to Frank Stokes' What's the Matter Blues. It's very simple in the left hand in the sense it's just basically amounts to 3 chords. We'll talk a little bit about how they're articulated, but it's just a G chord, a C chord, and a D chord. You've probably met them all before. The really exciting thing about Dan Sain's playing is that he uses a lot of single note runs. They're almost all phrased in 8th notes. In this particular song, it's almost exclusively 5 notes. And if we look at the left hand, I'll show you which 5 notes they are. I'll just give you a reference point for later. So it's the open. It's basically the amount of D, E, G, A, and B flat. So it starts on the open 4th string, 2nd fret of the 4th string, open 3rd string, 2nd fret of the 3rd string, that's the A, and then the 3rd fret of the G string, the B flat. And that B flat note might be treated in some ways. Sometimes he might bend it a little bit. Sometimes he might slide it. But basically, the home note there is that 3rd fret on the 3rd string. One thing I should mention about the right hand. Now he's may very well be flat picking. You could certainly play this yourself flat picking. You'd probably alternate up and down strokes with a flat pick. What I'm doing to approximate that sound is on my right hand, I'm alternating my thumb and index finger. You might have seen, if you tried to play some of Reverend Gary Davis's music, you might have seen a similar technique. What I'm doing, if I were to do it, I'll just alternate. What I'm doing is on the strong note, I'm playing down with my thumb, and on the weak note, I'm playing up with my index finger. So if I were to play a little run, that's typical. So it's thumb, finger, thumb, finger, thumb, finger, thumb, finger, thumb. Not unfortunate, one thing you should be aware of is that there will be times when I'm playing, if we look at my right hand again, I will be playing a note on, say, my 3rd string with my thumb, and then picking up on a note on my 4th string with my index finger. So they're kind of crossed in this kind of a way. And that's just something you'll either, if you're going to play it with finger picks and or with bare fingers, you'll have to get used to, or you could play with a flat pick and just straight alternate up and down. So let's talk about his accompaniment behind Frank Stokes. So the introductory solos are, the introductory solos and the end solos are very similar. They start with just a hammer from the open 4th string onto the 2nd fret of the 4th string, and then up to the open 3rd string, and then a strum. So he integrates his single note runs in with his chords. So. So that's pretty much a very typical pattern that he'll play against the 1 chord, either as a solo, and sometimes occasionally you'll hear it in verses. But what he does is he'll take that kind of pattern and really kind of take it up a notch to move into the 4 chord. So if we look at the left hand again, so. Then what he'll do here is just keep repeating these 2 notes, the 2nd fret of the 4th string and the open 3rd string. And then walking up into what amounts to the 7th note of the 4 chord. Right? Let's take that a little bit slower. I'll try to count with it. I have to admit, it does confuse me a little bit playing this. It's just kind of like a machine gun of 8th notes. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and I'm sorry I couldn't count that out for you. Someday I'll get good at that. I do have the right feel for the song. I just can't always articulate it against a count beat. So once we're back in our 1 chord, so after that flurry of 8th notes, strum, strum, to get to the 5 chord, what he does, basically he can either slide or just articulate the notes. Goes from the 3rd, the major 3rd note of the G chord here on the 5th string. So to the C up to the open 4th string. And then kind of like we talked about it before, where it's a down, up, up, up kind of strumming pattern, where it's a bass note and 3 treble strums. So, and then finishing off with a little 5-note riff. 5, 5 notes, the actual notes themselves, articulate. Second note on the, or second fret on the 4th string, strum, and then. So the solos all take that as their kind of basic form. The second solo in the intro is very much the same. The second run through the form. If we talk about, if you notice that there's a kind of a tonality he uses on the 1 chord, where he uses this second fret of the 4th string within the 1 chord. It's kind of as maybe a minor, relative minor kind of sound. When he alternates behind Frank Stokes singing, he's basically doing a boom chang pattern in the right hand, but the interesting thing is happening in the left hand, right? So it's bass, strum, and then for the second bass note, he's actually using that 2nd fret note. Then back to the low bass, back to low bass again. Then strum, then you're into the 4 chord. That same 2nd fret note. Then here he'll walk from that 2nd fret chromatically down to the open 4th string. 2nd fret at the 5th string, strum, low bass, strum, strum. Again, walking up to the 5 chord, strum, strum, strum. And behind the singing, he'll play this again, this little riff. To give a little more context around that riff, so it starts on the open 4th string to the 2nd fret of the 4th string, open 3rd string, 2nd fret of the 3rd string, 3rd fret of the 3rd string, back to the 2nd fret, then open fret, then open, 2nd fret, then open again. The singing behind the playing behind Frank Stokes' sung verses are very similar. If you listen to the recording, there's little variations. Sometimes he might, when moving from the 5 chord back to the 1, he might use this low note here. You can get a feel for that as you play through it yourself and experiment with it. This moves us into the 2 verses at the end, the 2 solos at the end. They're a little different than the first 2 solo verses. They start pretty much the same, though. The first one does. So where it starts with a hammer-on from the open 4th string. It just keeps that going. Now here he anticipates, instead of walking up to that 3rd fret note, the way he would, say, during a verse or maybe during the introductory solos, he actually anticipates this note a little bit and just really lands on it. And it's a little ahead of the beat. Then a little slide, then you're into the 5 chord. He doesn't really alternate there, but then that same run we've been using. A little different because he doesn't walk back to that 2nd fret. He just holds on to it, bends it a little bit. So I'm going to play that through a little bit slowly if we just focus on the left hand. I'm going to play that slowly and just sort of show that how he sort of syncopates as he gets into that 4 chord. So. The last part of the solo, he's actually not really soloing at all. He just kind of gives it up to Frank Stokes, who's doing a much more fancier thing up the neck. And I really like the way Sane plays here because to me it's just kind of expressive of their maybe musical friendship. He plays so supportively behind Frank Stokes. And what he does that same kind of 1 down, 3 up kind of pattern, and he's really insistent about it. So it's all based on the G chord first, so it's a G, strum, strum, strum. when he comes to the 4 chord, he fingers. I suppose he fingers a full C chord. You never hear him play the tonic on the 5th string, though. He always plays from this string down, and is real insistent. So it's again bass note strum in the right hand, but the left hand stays pretty much the same. If we could focus on the right hand for just a second. So he's just holding that C chord, but he's playing real insistently with his thumb. Doing that walk down we talked about before. Bass note strum. Now coming back to the left hand, we're just looking at going from that 1 chord back up into the into the 5 actually. Same run. Little funky bass note on the 2nd fret, and then he ends with just a big strum on the G. That's the whole thing. Let's play it in the split screen.
Okay, so now we're ready for the ensemble split screen version of What's the Matter Blues, and that's what we'll do right now.